Hello and welcome back to App for You. In this particular video, we'll be discussing about a new problem from greedy algorithms. Basically, the problem has been taken from Geek for Geeks, and the problem says minimize the heights. Okay, so we shall first understand what is the problem actually speaking, and then we shall jump into the understanding of the problem. So basically, the problem says that we are provided with an array, right? This is the array that we are provided, and this denotes the height of the towers, right? This denotes the height of the towers, and n denotes the number of towers. So basically n equal to 4, in the sense we have 4 towers, and this denotes the height of the towers. Now the condition is, they have said that you have to modify the height of each tower, right? You have to modify the height of each tower, means it is mandatory to modify the height of every tower, either by increasing the value of the height by k, that is either you increase the height by k or you decrease the height by k. But remember, you can perform that only once, right? So we can perform that particular operation only once, and after modifying the height, we should basically the height should be a non-negative integer, which means the height cannot be negative. Means if you are trying to decrease the height, make sure the height is basically greater than or equal to 0. You cannot make it less than 0. Now find out what could be the possible minimum difference of the height of the shortest and the longest towers after you have modified each tower. So basically that is what we have to do. Now basically, if this is my array 1, suppose I have some elements like 8, 1, 5 and 10, and now if I ask you what is the maximum difference, or what is the minimum difference, right, available here. So basically you have to find the minimum possible difference. But if you see, what is the maximum possible difference that is existing here, basically obviously the smallest element and the largest element, that will actually is going to say you that this is the maximum difference possible here. So for that particular reason, for generalization, I'll just sort the array. Once I sort the array, I'll be getting elements like 1, 5, 8 and 10, right? The first element will be my minimum element, right, and the last element basically will be a maximum element if I sort them in ascending order. Let us suppose the first element is denoted by A, and the last element, that is the getter element, is denoted by B. Now we know that at this particular situation, the difference between the minimum and the maximum, right, 10 minus 1, which is equal to 9. This is the difference, right? This is the difference. So basically it indicates that our height, or you can say difference in height, cannot exceed 9, isn't it? Because you see, we have found out the minimum tower, we have found out the maximum height tower. Now if you just subtract it, we know that pick any two towers from here, and find the difference. You will find that they will not exceed the difference 9. Suppose I am taking 10 and 5 here, so 5 minus 10 and 5, the absolute difference is 5, right? So it is basically not going to exceed 9. Even if you take 1 and 8, the difference is 7, and they are not going to exceed 9. So basically this indicates that the minimum and the maximum value is an indicator of the threshold or the maximum limit of the difference, right? Now what is our objective? Our objective is to minimize the difference, right? So basically we want to minimize the difference between the minimum value in the array and the maximum value in the array. This is what we are doing, isn't it? We want to minimize the difference between the minimum value present in the array and maximum value present in the array. Now how do we do so? So basically, just understand this particular idea. So basically, suppose after sorting I'm getting 1, 5, 8, 10. Now you see, if you try to we know that the value of k is 2 now, right, for this particular example. So if you try to plot these things on a number line, so basically this is 0, suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So you see, I have one maximum limit at here, means B, and I have A at here 1. We know we want to minimize the difference between A and B, right? Minimize distance between A and B. A is here, B is here, right? Two friends are very apart. This is the lowest and this is the largest, and you want to basically minimize the difference between them. So for minimizing the difference between them, A should move towards B, right, means towards right, and B should move towards left, isn't it? Right? A should move towards right, and B should basically move towards left, right? In other words, since they have already mentioned that we have to add k or you have to subtract k from every element. Now suppose if I consider this particular array 1 5 8 10, right? 1 5 8 10, this is my value a, this is my value b. What is the difference between difference is basically is equal to 9. 10 minus 1 equal to 9, right? Now you see, they have said either I can add k to all elements or I can remove k from all elements, ensuring that the elements after removal is positive. Suppose I want to add k to all elements, so basically add k to all. So what will happen? Basically my array will be modified to something like this. 1 plus 2 will become 3, 5 plus 2 will become 7, 8 plus 2 will become 10, 10 plus 2 will become 12, right? What if I say remove k? Now you see, remove k ensuring that the number is still positive. So 1 minus 2 will be minus 1. So basically I will not allow this removal. So this will remain as it is. 5 minus 2 is basically 3. I can allow it removal. 8 minus 2 basically is 6. I can allow the removal. 10 minus 2 is basically 8. I can allow the removal, right? So this is the array that you will get after adding k to all elements. This is the array that you will get after removing k from all elements, right? Now if I add k to all elements, will this give me a minimum difference between the smallest element and the maximum element? So my smallest element in this case is 3. Remember, I have added k to all elements, and the maximum value here is 12, right? So basically 12 minus 3 is equal to 9. No change. Why? Because obviously if I have an element a and b earlier, and now if I'm adding a plus k and b plus k, and if you're doing b plus k minus of a plus k, what will happen? You will get b plus k minus a minus k, which is equal to b minus b plus k only. B minus a, right? So see, initially also the difference is b minus a, and afterwards also you will get the difference b minus a only, which means that if you are trying to add k to all elements, you are not getting a huge impact, right? There is no difference. There is no difference in keeping it as it is, or if even if you add k to all elements. So this is not a good idea. You are not getting any useful output. But what happens basically after adding k to the smaller element also and the larger element also? So basically a and b, I added a plus k, I added b plus k. I found the difference to be b plus k minus of a plus k, which is nothing but b minus a only. And originally also the difference was b minus a only. Fine, so no change. What if I remove k from both a and b? So will it also create any impact? So a and b, you're trying to say a minus k and you're trying to say b minus k. If you find the difference, so b minus k minus of a minus k, which is nothing but b minus k minus a plus k, and which will be b minus a only, which means that this is also not going to create any difference because the difference will remain the same. So adding k to all elements is not a good idea. Removing k from all elements is also not a good idea. What can be a good idea? So the good idea can be, a good idea will say that the smaller value, right, this particular value, you try to move towards right, as I said on the number line, you try to move towards right, and the maximum value, try to bring it towards left, try to move it towards left. So how can that be possible? Basically we will add k to the smaller element and subtract k from the maximum element. Getting the point? We are trying to add k to the smaller element, subtracting k to the larger element. Fine. So what will happen? You see, basically if I do a plus k and I do b minus k, so b is the larger element, subtract k from it, a is the smallest element, add k to it. So what will be the difference? Difference will be b minus k minus of a plus k, so which is nothing but b minus k minus a minus k, which is equal to b minus a minus 2k. You can see the difference has decreased. Difference decreased further, right? You decrease the difference, but is it all enough? Can we just say that this is the answer, right? Just by adding k to it and subtracting k from it and find the difference and give the answer? No, that will not be a good answer. Why? You see, in this there is an exception. Why? We have to regulate it. Regulate in the sense, suppose, let me erase it all. How do we regulate it? So basically we know that after sorting, what happened is, basically we got 1, 5, 8 and 10, right? Now we are trying to suppose for example k is equal to 3. Say for example k equal to 3. So our idea says that you have to increase the value of lower bound to the smallest limit. You have to basically move towards right. The largest value has basically moved towards left. Now you see, at this particular point of time, 10 is maximum, 1 is minimum. Now if I add k to the smaller value, what will it become? It will become 4, right? It will become 4. And if I remove k from this larger value, as we said, we do b minus k, right? b minus k, and we do a plus k. Now if you remove k from 10, so 10 minus 3 will basically be 7. You have 8 here, 5 here. Now see, at this particular instant of time, 7 no longer remains the maximum value. Getting the point? 7 no longer remains the maximum value, right? So what is happening? 7 is moving towards this particular value, b has moved towards left, but 7 is no longer the maximum value. You have to ensure that the maximum value comes here, which means 8 should be remaining here, right? You should keep track of the maximum value, right? Now how can we solve this particular problem? So basically we should first of all say that, alright, so just now we saw that if you are trying to add k to all the elements, the difference remains the same. Even if you subtract k from all the elements, the difference remains the same. And then we came out with an idea that if we can just increase the, just after sorting, if you have an array like 1, 5, 8 and 10, so the idea was that let us try to increase the value of the lower limit and decrease the value of the upper limit. That is the maximum value we are trying to decrease, the smallest value we are trying to increase its value by adding k. So we are basically going to add k to the smallest value, subtract k from the smallest from the largest value, because this will ensure that our range reduces. So range of values will reduce, because you see this will reduce the range, and if the range reduces, the difference will automatically reduce. Because suppose if 1 becomes if we have value of k as 4, right? Then suppose 1 plus 4 becomes 5, right? 10 minus 4 becomes 6. You see the difference reduces to 1, right? And suppose these elements are not there. So we are trying to increase the value of 1. So basically 1 plus 4 is 5. 10 minus 4 is 6. And now the difference will be 1. Basically it means that if you are trying to increase the value of the lower limit and decrease the value of upper limit, the difference will basically be reduced, right? That is the point. Next point to be considered is, once we sort the values, right? Once we sort the values, for example here we basically sorted it to 1, 5, 8 and 10, right? And now we say that we will be adding k to this and remove k from this, the maximum element. So let us suppose that k is equal to 4. Then if you try to add 4 to this, it will become 5, and if you try to subtract 4 from this, it will become 6. So basically you see that now 6 is now this particular value is no longer the maximum value, right? Its value has now become to 6. So what should be the maximum value at that instant? The maximum value at that instant should be now 8. Right in the point? So this should no longer be considered as the upper limit of the array. The upper limit or the maximum value of the array should be 8. Now how do we deal with this particular problem? So the idea is, if you pay attention to the array elements 1, 5, 8 and 10, now we just now found out that the difference is maximum between the extreme elements, right? The difference was 10 minus 1 equal to 9. But if you focus on the intermediate elements, either this pair, the adjacent ones, 1, 5, the difference is 4. 8 minus 5, the difference is 3. 10 minus 8, the difference is 2. So these elements basically have a smaller difference. The value of the difference is very small, right? So the concept says that we will be considering all the possible adjacent pairs, right? Now before going into that explanation, let us first of all code whatever we have done so far. So far we have just tried to sort the array, right? So let us basically sort the array first. Alright, the array is sorted. Now what should we do next? The next thing to be done is basically, let us suppose the smallest element is a comma b, right? And the largest element is b. So a is equal to basically array of 0, right? And b is nothing but array of n minus 1, the extreme maximum element, right? This is done. Now we will consider, once the array is sorted, what do we have? Once the array is sorted, we have 1, 5, 8 and 10 with us. After sorting, what we did, right now we considered this to be a, this to be b. Fine. Now the algorithm says that we will go through all possible adjacent pairs, right? So in the sense, let us suppose variable x comma y. X is nothing but okay, let us do one thing, integer I also. What will happen? So we will basically start from I equal to 1, I less than equal to n minus 1, I plus plus. Done. Before that, we should basically consider the difference. So what is the difference? The difference initially is what? B minus A, right? This is the initial difference that is given, and we know that this is maximum, right? 10 minus 1 is 9, so this is huge. We have to reduce the difference. So basically, let us create a variable difference and initialize it to B minus A. What next? The next thing basically to be done here is we shall say y is equal to array of I, right, and x equal to array of I minus 1. Why so? See, this is the array after sorting. So basically the iteration will start from this till this. So right now I is equal to 1, so basically I is pointing to this particular value. So y is equal to array of 5, which means y is pointing to 5. X equal to array I minus 1, which means x is pointing to 1, right? We consider this pair 1 comma 5. Now you see, we know that the difference between the pairs, the adjacent pairs, the difference between the adjacent pairs is small, right? The difference between the adjacent pairs is small in value. Like 5 minus 1 is 4, 8 minus 5 is 3, 10 minus 8 is 2, and this will be basically be less than the maximum difference. The maximum difference is basically B minus A. Its difference is basically greater than any intermediate difference, x minus y, right? So we will focus on this x minus y pairs, and we will try to ensure that x basically, right, x basically we will try to increase the value of x, and we will try to reduce the value of y, right? We will try to increase the value of x and try to reduce the value of y. So basically, if you see here, we will check that so we've just found out the value of y, we found out the value of x. Now we should basically say integer, let us consider one more variable, max val comma mean val. What will it do? We will say, so you see, right now x is at 1, y is at 5, right? So basically the max value will be what? Means what is the maximum value at that instant? So maximum value at that instant is the maximum of, what is the upper limit at this instant? The upper limit is this, right, pointing to b, and we know that we are going to reduce it by k. So max of b minus k, comma, and we know that right now we are considering this particular left value, right? We are our target is to increase it, right, and decrease this. Getting the point? Our target is to increase this, and target is to decrease this. If you consider this particular pair, so increasing this means we have to add k to this. So basically we say b minus k comma x plus k, whichever is maximum. Why? We are checking that if I increase this particular value by k, because we know that we can increase or decrease only once, and this value basically left side we are going to add k to it. Now if we add k to it, we are just ensuring that is this exceeding the upper limit right now, because upper limit should be kept track of, right? We should keep track of upper limit. So right now, like here, the upper limit is 10 right now. So if I just add k to this particular value 1, is it increasing the upper limit? That is the question, right? 1. So 1 plus k is basically, k is right now 2, isn't it? 2 is the input, k. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and the upper limit is 10. So basically we found out that if you increase this by k, no way this is going to be the upper limit. So basically what will be the upper limit? The upper limit will still remain 10. So here the output will be basically 10. Right, b minus k means this one, after reducing the value of 10 with k. So basically not 10, this will be basically 10 minus 2, right? 10 minus k, so 10 minus k will be 8 comma x plus k. So x is 1 plus 2 is 3. So what is the maximum value? Maximum value is 8. So this will make sure that the maximum value is stored in this particular value, this particular variable. So max value is 8. What is the minimum value at that instant? Now minimum value will be basically the minimum of, now you see what we were trying to do. Basically if you see the lower limit, the actual lower limit, this is 1. We had already increased it by k, right? So basically we increased it by k. So basically the value was a plus k, comma, and now we know that if you consider this particular pair x, y, we were trying to increase the value of x, but we are trying to reduce the value of y. So y minus k, y minus k. Getting the point? Because our objective is that particular pair, if I add plus you consider any pair, right, adjacent pairs. But so if you add k to the left element and reduce k from the rightmost element, right, so basically you should reach to extreme points, right, basically you should reach to the extreme points, right, and if not, then just keep track of what is the maximum value at that point and what is the minimum value at that point, right. So that is what we are basically doing. So minimum value will basically keep track of what is the minimum value in that array right now, and maximum value will keep track of what is the maximum value in the array right now. So you see in this particular point, what will be the value of a 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, and y is basically 5, so 5 minus 2 is again equal to 3, so it will also be 3. So this is 3, and the max value found out to be 8, so 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. So basically we will keep track of this difference. So difference will create a variable. Difference is nothing but minimum of the current value of difference, comma, the max val minus mean val, right. So this particular value difference will keep track of that thing. Okay, why am I writing semicolon with this? Semicolon, fine. And finally we will be returning the difference, but not now. After this loop completes, we will see the working, how it is working. So basically I will be returning it here, and the difference should be declared initially, so it is already declared, it's fine, right. So let us see the working first. How is it actually working? So if you understand the working of this particular problem, so initially we had, remember, 8 1 5 10, right. So we had 8 1 5 and 10, right. So we basically sorted it in the sense 1 5 8 and 10. Now we found out this to be B, this to be A, right. So initially the value of difference was B minus A, so difference is initially B minus A, so 10 minus 1 is 9. Keep track of this, 9. Then max val and min val, we created two variables so that we can keep track of what is the maximum value at that point and what is the minimum value at that point. Okay, so that we can keep track of the extreme ends of this window. So I will iterate from 1 to n minus 1, means from here till here. So basically initially what will happen, y equal to array of 1, so y will be here, x will be here. Okay, just keep track of the working. Now I know that I am basically going to add k to it and decrease k from the maximum value, means 8 plus k, 10 minus k, right. So if I do so, what will be 8 plus, now you see I will be finding maximum value. I am considering this pair, this is the pair, right. So basically I am checking that if I, now see, consider this pair, if I consider this pair, I will be checking that if I add k to it, if I add k to this, is it going to exceed my upper limit? And if I subtract k from this y, is it going to reach or become lower than the lower limit? Okay, because this can happen, right, because we saw in that particular example, like in 1 5 8 10, suppose suppose k is equal to 4, then we know that we were trying to add 4 to it, subtract 4 from it. So adding 4 to it becomes equal to 5 5 6, and if you subtract 4 from it, it becomes what? This was 8, right? 8 minus 4 4, and this becomes basically 6. Sorry, this was 8 only. So 1 plus 4 is 5, this 5 8 remains the same. 10 minus 4 will basically become 6. Now you see at this particular time, this no longer remains the largest value, right? So for that particular reason, we should basically keep track of what is the largest value. So if you consider this particular pair, I will be adding k to it and I'll be subtracting k from it, and I'll check what is the maximum value. That is why maximum value is equal to b minus k, which means you are trying, this is the upper limit right now, 10 minus k. 10 minus k is nothing but 10 minus 2, k is 2, right, 8. And x plus k, right now x is pointing to this particular value 1, 1 plus k means 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. What is the maximum? Means 8 is maximum, which indicates that even though you try to increase the value of 1 by k, it did not reach the extreme end, means it is not the window's extreme end, or it is not the maximum value. So which means right now, which is the maximum value? 8, right, because we have subtracted k from it. So max value will be 8. What is the minimum value? A plus k. A is 1, 1 plus k is 1 plus 2 equal to 3, and y minus k, y is basically 5, right, you see, this was xy, right. Now we know that the lower limit is, right now the lower limit is 1, we have increased it by k, so basically 1 plus 2 equal to 3, right, because a was pointing to this, a will always point to this, and we are trying to reduce the value of this pair, so we should check that if I am reducing it by k, is it basically going beyond this or less than this. So basically you see 5 minus k will give you 5 minus 2 will give you 3, so it remains the same. So if it remains the same, basically minimum value will be 3 only. So mean value equal to 3, max value is equal to 8. The difference is basically equal to minimum of, what is the current difference? Current difference was 9 comma 5. So what is the minimum difference? Minimum difference is equal to 5. So this will be updated to 5. Got the point? I hope you got the point, right? So minimum difference right now is 5. What next? Next time again, my I will be incremented. So basically I will point to this. So basically y will be here, x will be here. If you consider this pair, right, x is pointing to 5, y is pointing to 8. So again, what is the maximum value? So how will I ensure? Now basically I am trying to increase this value of 5 by k, with k. So 5 plus k means 5 plus 2 will become 7, and basically I am trying to reduce this value by k. So 8 minus 2 will become 6, right? So basically I will be checking that right now I increase the value of this x by k times, means plus k, so it becomes 7. So is it exceeding the maximum value? So maximum value is what? Basically you see b minus k, because I'm trying to reduce k, this k times, right, from k by k. So this is 8, 10 minus k is 8, 7 and 8, which is the maximum? Maximum still remains 8 only. So maximum is still 8. Minimum equal to, you have 6 here, you are trying to reduce it, right? So basically from 8 you got, basically you have 6 here. So 6 minus 2 will basically be 4, right? And the lower bound right now you had 1, that basically you are trying to add k to it, 1 plus k, which is equal to 1 plus 2 equal to 3. So 3 and 4, which is the lower value? Now you see, even you are trying to reduce 2 from 6, it was still bigger than the lower bound, which means lower bound is still this only, 3 only. That is why we are writing this minimum of current lower bound, comma the lower bound that you are trying to achieve. Getting the point? So what will be the difference? The maximum is 8, minimum will be still be 3. Minimum will still be 3. The difference is still equal to 5. Right? Difference is still equal to 5. So it remains 5 only. Next time you will be considering another pair. Another pair in the sense you will be having y here, x here, right? So basically I am trying to increase this by k. It will become 8 plus 2 equal to 10, right? And if you consider this one, this was basically reduced by k, isn't it? Minus k. So 10 minus 2 is equal to 8. So now you see the upper bound, like a maximum value is equal to max b minus k. So b minus k means b is 10 minus 2 is 8. So 8 comma x plus k. X is basically 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 comma 8. What is the maximum value? Maximum value of 10 comma 8 is 10 right now. Means upper limit has now become 10, right? And what is the minimum value? We basically try to add k to it. Add 2 to this particular lower bound. 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, comma y minus k. Now you see this was y. We try to reduce it by with k. Minus k means minus 2, 8. 3 comma 8. What is the minimum? Minimum is still 3. So maximum is 10, minimum is 3. Difference is 7. So we have to basically update the difference value with minimum of current difference, which is 5, and this difference, which is equal to 7. Which is the minimum difference? Minimum difference is 5 itself. So I hope you got the intuition. The video is very lengthy, but you need to understand this. It's a little bit complicated, but if you develop the intuition behind the problem, you can understand it, what we are actually doing, right? So basically we are considering every pairs, right? Basically we know that if you sort the elements, so this will be the lowest value, this will be the maximum value. The difference between them will be maximum, right? Now the compulsion that they have enforced is that you have to add k to some element or either subtract k from that element, right? And you have to end up having the minimum difference possible, So for that particular reason, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to increase this lower bound, I'm trying to decrease the lower bound, right? And for that particular reason, what I'm doing is I'm going through pairs, every pairs. So every pairs in the sense, suppose I'm taking this as the pair, right? I'm assuming that this is my pair, and if I reduce it by with k, and if I increase it by k, and if I decrease it by k, am I able to? Now you see, if you decrease it minus k, right? If you decrease it minus k, basically it sometimes can come to the lower bound, and if you increase this by k, this sometimes can move to the upper bound, isn't it? There will be certain example in which case if you subtract k from this particular element here, it will move to the lower bound, and if you add k to this element, this will move to the upper bound, right? Similarly for this particular pair also. That is why we know that if we are trying to add k to this can sometime move to the upper bound. So basically we have to update the upper bound. That is why we are basically writing this. And sometimes if you are subtracting k from this, basically this can go to the lower bound. So basically we are keeping track of the minimum value also, right? So you can just try this working out yourself also. One more thing is that this particular operation should be performed only when the value of y that we are calculating, that is the array element, if we are subtracting k from that element, we know that after subtraction the value should be non-negative, right? So basically it should be greater than or equal to 0, right? If and only if this condition holds true, then only we will allow them to perform these operations, that whatever we are doing, right? So we should ensure that if there is a need of subtracting k from that particular element, then obviously that should be greater than or equal to 0. Otherwise we will not perform those operations, because that might lead to negative results, right? That means the element can become negative, but we know that there is a restriction that after modifying the height it should be a non-negative integer, and hence we should ensure that it is non-negative by writing this particular line, that is array element, that is y equal to array of I minus k greater than or equal to 0. So we can now successfully compile this particular code and see what is the output. So the output is 5, it's working fine, and if we just see if it is passing all the test cases, so as per this particular article, as per this particular problem on Geek for Geeks, I think it should work fine. So yeah, it is a problem, so it's working fine. So I hope this video was very helpful and intuitive. In case of any doubt, please feel free to put your doubt in the comment section, and just like, share and subscribe. This video was quite lengthy, and actually the challenge is that this problem is very difficult to understand. Not that difficult, but you need to have a thorough understanding from yourself also, right? So I would request you to research yourself also on this particular topic, and I hope this video will help you at least to get the idea about what is actually happening. So that was the purpose for creating this particular video. I hope it was helpful. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.